Invincible is full of powerful characters, from Omni-Man and Invincible to the legendary Emperor Thrag. But this leaves us with an important question. Who could beat these guys? Today, I'm going over all of the strongest characters from Invincible and who could defeat them. Invincible has come a long way in the show, but he still doesn't quite live up to his name. Although he's much faster and way stronger than in Season 1, there are still many characters who could destroy Invincible, and today, we're ranking them all, from the hardest fights to the easiest kills. And trust me, the final one will leave you speechless. Starting with Cecil Steadman. I think it goes without saying that Cecil himself poses no threat to Mark directly, but given his resources, tenacity, and willingness to push the boundaries of morality, he absolutely qualifies. In the first season, we see that Cecil Steadman is not a man to be trifled with, as he takes on Omni-Man both directly and with his full arsenal and resources at the time. First being the long-range evade quick attacks. He's often seen utilizing his tech, and it doesn't seem all that limited. Given it can transport multiple people or soldiers, it is nothing short of instant. Proven by Omni-Man, an incredibly fast hero not being able to keep up, and can be utilized often without cooldown or reset. Then there are Cecil's weapons, an orbital rail cannon that impressively seemed to have some impact on Omni-Man. This tool is in bringing Invincible down, it would be nothing short of a devastating blow. Finally, we get to his soldiers. Even in his first no-holds-barred display, Cecil has the Reanimin, which proved to be capable, at the time, of dealing damage to Omni-Man, slowing him down some, and proving to be a nuisance. In the latest season, we see that Invincible doesn't seem to have too much of an issue dealing with them on their own, but it's not all that it seems, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Then Invincible have some trouble dealing with even together. While this beast is slain, we know it's not the only monster that would pose a threat to Invincible. Should Cecil gain access to any more monsters of such strength, he would surely utilize them against him if need be. That covers Cecil in the first season, even then the mightiest being that the Earth knew at the time. Since then, he has developed even more tech and has become far more willing to use it, the first being the Viltrumite nullification frequency, discovered by Cecil when Mark battled the underwater kaiju in Atlantis, recreated, weaponized, and implanted in Invincible's ear. We saw this almost completely incapacitate Invincible at the beginning of Season 3, dropping him to his knees in agony, leaving him in a vulnerable mess. Which leads to the current Reanimin. While somewhat weaker, used in tandem with the frequency would no doubt prove to be a lethal combination to Invincible. And we even get to see one of Invincible's variants killed using this frequency and Reanimin.
Okay, stop. Jesus, she's dead.
But a different method of deployment would surely up the ante once again. If the Reanimin had their own speakers to play the frequency, a bigger system to play it through, even drones could be employed to make it once again a serious threat to Invincible. That's one way of doing it. Or as we have seen, Cecil is currently cooking up something far more sinister, the Invincible variant Reanimin. Now, we know they are not currently up and running, but in the show it's stated that it won't even be a couple weeks before they are.
We're at least 2 weeks away from even a trial run.
When they are ready, Cecil could absolutely use these in a coordinated attack against Invincible, and it would be certain death. Deployed in tandem with the frequency and orbital rail cannon, our hero wouldn't stand a chance. Cecil is far more practical and calculated than the next on our list, Angstrom Levy, the do-good, dimension-hopping doctor turned sadistic, vengeful monster. This guy is another of the current largest threats to Invincible for a multitude of reasons, not just his insane powers. We have seen that he is more than willing to do absolutely monstrous things, to target Invincible's weaknesses, his loved ones, his planet, and his very identity.
Make them fear! Invincible! Make them hate!
Given that he has multi-dimensional portaling capabilities, he has an infinite amount of potential to kill Invincible, like a dimension that is totally devoid of life or oxygen, or another that is filled with collapsing stars or black holes. Our doctor needs only to think bigger, and he would undoubtedly become a threat to astronomical proportions. We will note that in their latest bout, we saw that Invincible has gotten a lot better at not being tricked or knocked into the portals.
Smart boy!
So a little more creativity would be needed to get him in one. How about a bunch of Omni-Man variants next? Maybe something as simple as catching him off guard mid-flight. We know that Angstrom doesn't need to be directly next to his portals to summon them, and can put them anywhere. He could do it at any time, from any distance, and that would be that. Unfortunately, he is far too prideful and wants to see Invincible suffering at his hands. He also has more than a few upgrades since their initial meeting, and seems to be in the progress of recuperating after his latest loss. We will definitely begin seeing Angstrom again, as will we definitely see much more of the surprising next person on this list. Adam Eve. Yes, that's right. Invincible's current love interest and crime-fighting companion is also one of the ever-shortening list of people who could kill Invincible in a fight. Eve is more than a capable fighter. That much we know already thanks to her fight with Conquest. But there is far more that meets the eye to her. In the Adam Eve special, we get a much more detailed look at her powers and background. She was experimented on in the womb and came into this world with the ability to manipulate matter itself, something we don't see her utilize nearly as much as she could in the show. We do see an incredible example of her power when she increases the density of the air around Conquest, almost completely immobilizing him.
I increase the density of the air.
Something like that against Mark may prove to do him in. We see a lot of her pink energy in usage, which she can employ very creatively, but we don't think that alone would be enough to stop Invincible. Going back to the Adam Eve special, we know that her ability to manipulate the matter of living creatures has a limiter placed on it artificially, one that under times of great duress will automatically be overridden. She managed to come back from the near brink of death, erasing the mind of Steven Erikson after he killed her parents, showing us that she can, and will, use the full extent of her powers when pushed to her limits. Should Invincible break her limiters unintentionally, his death would likely be instant. Anything along the lines of being turned into rock or solid gold, having the air removed from his lungs, he'll just straight up Dr. Manhattan cellular disintegration, if Eve were pushed that far. While they are together currently, there is no doubt in our minds that Adam Eve is an absolute powerhouse that could potentially, if her limiters were broken, kill Invincible. Though she has limits, the next person has absolutely none: Anissa. Instead of going over the Viltrumites as a whole, or even in small groups, who could easily kill Invincible, we are going to focus on just the Viltrumites who could 1v1 Mark and win. Anissa is one such Viltrumite, absolutely menacing in just the first few seconds of her arriving. She's no stranger to targeting Mark's weaknesses, his loved ones and the people of Earth. She displays the ruthlessness and cunning most of the lower level Viltrumites lack. Instead of punching her way through every situation, she prefers the tactile approach, giving our hero a dire warning.
Didn't you hear me? I said I only wished to speak.
Comply or be destroyed, threatening to tear Amber's head off within just moments of her arrival to get Mark to listen.
Did you hear me?
She does attempt to appeal to Mark in a pragmatic way, referencing the current state of humanity and its impending self-implosion.
The powerful of this world destroy their own home.
It's complicated.
No, it isn't. We have the technology to repair their climate. We will save more of their lives in a single year than you could in 100.
She's intelligent, level-headed, and a true emissary of Viltrum. But she is absolutely no pen-pushing clerk. While Invincible struggles with a kaiju attacking a cruise ship, she takes it out in one fell swoop. A single shot was all that was required, while seconds before, we see Mark flail about trying to get a few good licks in. While Invincible has gone considerably stronger since their initial encounter, Anissa fully demonstrated then that she was leagues ahead of him. Her speed and power were absolutely unrivaled at the time. She punched Mark kilometers into the sky and was behind him in an instant. Donald even mentions she was faster than Omni-Man, putting her on a level of her own. She slaps Mark around like a ragdoll, and she doesn't even know a single sign of the slightest exertion, ending their fight with a devastating fly kick into the floor which leaves an awesome crater. Anissa dominated him then, and she definitely still outclasses him now. The only reason Invincible is still alive is because she is seemingly a diplomat, not a conqueror. She leaves him with a warning that she was the reasonable one, which directly ties into our next person, Conquest. The aforementioned unreasonable one, forever cemented in his opening line,
Stand ready for my arrival, worm.
Conquest is without a doubt one of the toughest villains Mark has ever stood against. Their opening clash, a single punch sent a massive shockwave rippling across a few city blocks, shattering windows, blowing people off their feet, and breaking the sound barrier. Within the first few moments of their absolutely immense battle, already bringing to attention that now, our boy Mark might just stand a chance. A notion that is very quickly put down by Conquest. He even references Anissa and her diplomatic ways before diatribing into how he is not here to integrate Earth into the Viltrum Empire. He's here for blood and he loves to fight and kill.
Anissa would be telling you how the Viltrum Empire would turn this wretched planet into a utopia. I'll tell you no such thing. I want you to resist. I'm here because I enjoy this.
Conquest is almost completely unhinged. Not only does he not care about mass casualties, he loves it. Meaning he wastes no time. There are no moral barriers, no line he won't cross. all in the name of good old-fashioned sadism and the thrill of the hunt. While other Viltrumites follow strict doctrine and dogma, Conquest only seeks to live up to his namesake. His job is to break planets, deemed unruly by the Empire. If Anissa is the threat, then Conquest is the consequence. It may appear that Mark gets a few good shots in the first few moments of battle, but Conquest appears to be absolutely loving it, allowing himself to just get hit so the battle can go on a few more seconds. Make no mistake, for almost all the fight, Conquest has the upper hand, that hand being the one constantly slapping Marks around. With a single blow, Conquest levels half a city. The shockwave as he flies in for impact, shattering windows alone. Really, there are only so many ways to say Conquest is a shockingly terrifying villain with immense power. So let's frame it like this. While playing with Invincible, he levels several cities, kills thousands, almost kills Oliver effortlessly, while monologuing about how good it feels to slowly rip someone in half. Kills Adam Eve and states he's having the time of his life. This whole battle of an ungodly amount of death and destruction is his idea of the best day ever. The only reason Mark manages to beat him in the end is because of Eve's limiter being broken and him being hit with a beam of concentrated energy that flays most of his skin off. Invincible then smashes his head in with his head. Even then, after all that, he's still not dead, and we will definitely be seeing him again. Who needs cunning when smashing someone to pieces works just fine? A sentiment the next person on our list might have once shared, but no longer. Number 6. Omni-Man. Omni-Man, aka Nolan Grayson, aka Space Dad. A once beloved hero to the people of Earth and Mark's dad. While he might be in the midst of turning over a new leaf, Nolan Grayson is still one of the few people who could put Mark 6 feet under in a matter of seconds. If the occasion called for it, that is. We know that in their initial conflict, Mark was unseasoned, untrained, and, to be frank, pretty dang weak. He had not yet seen the true scale of what a Viltrumite was capable of, something Omni-Man rectified. While Conquest's ruthlessness was out of joy and love of murder, Nolan's was something even more sinister. He wanted to break Mark physically and emotionally, targeting the people of Earth around them, specifically to hurt Mark. To dehumanize the people he fought so hard to save, even referenced his mother as a pet. Oh, and he absolutely slapboxed Mark so hard he was unconscious for a week, while almost certainly holding back quite a bit. Yes, Omni-Man is a beast. The killer of the original Guardians of the Globe, he took down an entire league of incredibly varied and powerful superheroes all by himself. He can adapt on the fly, shrug off most attacks. He absolutely terrorizes the Flaxans when trapped in their dimension, wiping out anything that posed a threat to him before dropping half a continent on them.
Earth isn't yours to conquer.
He absolutely keeps up later in the series too. First of all, he casually left the event horizon of a black hole. For reference, the event horizon of a black hole is deemed mathematically inescapable. He conquers Thraxa and later battles 3 separate high-tier Viltrumites, while protecting Mark and the Thraxans, a battle he ultimately loses only just after killing 2 of the Viltrumites and mortally wounding the 3rd. Even later, he is still no slouch, fighting off his would-be executioners alongside Alan and Battle Beast. Nolan Grayson is revered among his people, and for good reason. He has an impeccable record of successful planets brought into the Viltrum Empire. He is fast, powerful, and needfully brutal, keeping him near the top of our list. While he doesn't quite have the lust for death our previous entry had, our next one certainly does. Battle Beast. Still a little bit of a mystery character, but we have seen him in action enough to know that Battle Beast is undoubtedly a dangerous opponent. First coming to light in Season 1, where he brutalizes a bloodlusted Invincible and the reformed Guardians of the Globe. Even Nolan refuses to intervene. Maybe he knows something we don't. Diving into a bit of the source material, Battle Beast is an anomaly even among his own people. A battle-proud race of lion humanoids, he is seen as the very pinnacle of his people, a true warrior who only thirsts for the mightiest of battles. While it could be argued he doesn't necessarily go out of his way to harm innocents, he has no issues if bystanders are hurt or killed in his quest for the ultimate battle. We've already seen him handle an entire team of heroes effortlessly. We come back to him aboard the Viltrumite prison ship, where it seems he allowed himself to be captured to continue his quest. Upon hearing the imminent arrival of Viltrumites, an opponent who may be worthy of his might, he easily breaks out and goes on a rampage alongside Alan and Nolan, taking down a Viltrumite all on his own. A feat that only a very small number of beings in the whole universe can attest to. Even this does not satiate his need for the ultimate battle. He is disappointed and left bitter about the situation. He then survives weeks floating in space before being found and coming to.
More!
We will see much more of Battle Beast, but even now with Mark's increased strength, it would be absolutely no contest, much like the final entry on our list, Alan the Alien. This might come as a bit of a shock, but yes, Alan the Alien is without a doubt at the very top of our list of people who could kill Invincible, for quite an interesting reason we might add. When we first meet Alan, he is more or less close to Invincible's level of power. He may or may not have been even a bit of a threat to Omni-Man. We will never know, because later in the series it's revealed, after surviving a near-death experience at the hands of two powerful Viltrumites, that Alan possesses a unique ability. When his body is pushed to its absolute limits, as long as he survives, his power will increase to absolutely ridiculous amounts. He is doubled in size, faster, stronger, and more resilient. When next we see him in full form, he comes face to face with Anissa, who we saw before absolutely body mark without effort. Alan incidentally draws blood with a single punch, before faking that he loses so as to be captured aboard the Viltrumite prison transport, where he is subjected to all manners of attempted execution. Even these methods aren't enough to trigger his latent power of regenerative growth. As he is attempting to escape, laser fire is seen as nothing more than a mild annoyance. He later busts Nolan out and is seen taking on multiple Viltrumites alongside him, displaying just how much his power has grown. He and Nolan kill the Viltrumites, and he is definitely now much more than a match for even Nolan, putting him squarely at the very top of our list. We will definitely be seeing more from Alan, who has almost unlimited potential to grow to be one of the most powerful beings in the universe, as long as he survives each battle. But even in his current state, he could definitely kill Invincible. Omni-Man seems completely unstoppable, but he's not. Many characters could destroy him in a fight, and today we're ranking them all, from the hardest fights to the easiest kills. And trust me, the final one will leave you speechless. Starting with the first group who almost killed Omni-Man, the original Guardians of the Globe. Now, that might sound controversial, but hear me out. Omni-Man's win came at a serious cost. The Guardians were caught off guard, sure, but even then, he didn't walk away unscathed. And if just a few things had gone differently, they could have easily ended him. On paper, the Guardians had serious power. The Immortal and War Woman were the heavy hitters, both with flight, super strength, and centuries of combat experience. Red Rush had insane speed and reflexes. Green Ghost could phase through solid matter. Martian Man could restrain targets with his shifting body. Then, you had Darkwing and Aquarius, who are less powerful, but could still stun or slow down Omni-Man. Together, they had the numbers, the versatility, and enough force to do some serious damage to Omni-Man. And they did. Red Rush made the first major move, saving the Immortal from what would have been an instant kill. Huh? But instead of capitalizing on this, the rest of the team hesitated. That delay gave Omni-Man time to adapt. War Woman struck first but went in wild. Darkwing and Aquarius followed, managing to push Omni-Man back for a moment. Red Rush pulled off another save, but then made the fatal mistake of going in for the attack. He landed hits, real ones, enough to make Omni-Man bleed, but it didn't matter. He was caught, and well, we all know what happens next. That moment shattered the team's confidence. One by one, they broke. Martian Man tried to restrain him. War Woman landed a clean hit. Darkwing rushed in and got cooked. Green Ghost caught his body and froze, leaving herself open to the kill. And Aquarius hesitated and paid the price. The team scattered, the plan fell apart. And just like that, 4 were taken out in seconds. But there's something important here that people don't consider. Despite being in complete chaos, having no prep, minimal coordination, and being in shock, the team managed to do some serious damage to Omni-Man. So what if they handled it differently? The Immortal and War Woman should have been the only ones in direct combat. Their strength gave them the best shot at going toe-to-toe, and when they did work together, they landed the most damage. Darkwing and Aquarius should have played from range, using bombs, stun tech, and jet streams to create openings or distract Omni-Man mid-fight. Martian Man's best move was entanglement, short, controlled strikes to disrupt Omni-Man's attacks and protect teammates. And the two most important, Red Rush and Green Ghost. Their job wasn't offense, it was rescue. With intangibility and high-speed movement, they could have pulled teammates out of kill zones, reset the field, and kept the Immortal and War Woman alive long enough to finish the fight. If the Guardians played as smart, they could have won, but they didn't. If you thought that was bad for Omni-Man, remember, it only gets worse from here. And the next one is one of the biggest threats ever. It is none other than Adam Eve. While Eve has not been shown in the kindest of lights in the show, I must go into just how incredibly overpowered her abilities truly are. While we see a lot of pink energy shields, weapons, and armor, let us not not forget that Adam Eve's true power is manipulating matter. Even with the full extent of her abilities in a sort of lockdown mode, she can manipulate the matter of non-living things however she sees fit. In the Adam Eve special, she rearranges the molecules of a paper book into solid glass. In her fight against Conquest, we see her increase the density of the air molecules around him to restrain him and turn a pink energy ball into water to keep him off balance mid-fight, just to showcase a couple of moments where she is shown using her powers to their full extent. Not to mention that it is done without bypassing the lockdown, which limits her from using this overpowered power on living beings. We've seen her bring down some serious threats, fighting alongside Mark against the Invincible variants, and even standing toe-to-toe with Conquest. Sure, it wasn't for long, and she didn't win, but she held her ground, kept him off balance, and landed more than a few solid hits. Adam Eve is powerful, strategic, and deadly when it counts. While the show has not yet done her justice in her regular capabilities, one thing they have shown well is her ultimate, the one that Omni-Man wouldn't stand a chance against. When her powers are fully unleashed, there may not be a combatant who could stand before her. In the same episode where she fights Conquest, we see it. She quickly recovers from a fatal wound and shreds Conquest's skin completely off. With a devastating beam of energy, this gives Mark the advantage that gets him the victory, mortally wounding Conquest. While that alone is an amazing display of her true power, it's still not all we've seen. We see it in full swing in the Adam Eve special. She breaks the lock and seizes the two people responsible for her suffering. She talks about how she could rearrange their molecules, completely reshape them entirely, but she settles for erasing their minds of her.
I see it all now. Every single molecule. I could rearrange your cells to make you whole new people from the monsters you are.
If what she said was true, she could rearrange Omni-Man into a puddle of goo, and there wouldn't be a thing he could do about it. Now that we've covered the hypotheticals, let's look at the characters who could go blow for blow with Omni-Man and win, starting with one of the toughest, Conquest. It might come down to the difference between a few well-placed blows, but I'm confident that Conquest would come out on top if he wasn't holding back. The older Viltrumite is not just a showcase for his brutality, but a showcase for the Viltrumite race's brutality at its peak. He and Nolan may have a similar background of conquering planets, maybe even a similar track record, so to speak. Nolan prefers more trickery, diplomacy, and strategic weakening over time, favoring infiltration and weakening defenses to brutal violence when bringing planets under the Viltrum Empire's rule. Conquest, however, is the complete opposite, reveling in brutality and violence and taking over planets, favoring wiping out any opposition with sheer force. Being so good at it, he is denied a traditional Viltrumite name, being only referred to as his nickname or title of Conquest by other Viltrumites.
Conquest. I don't even get a real name, only a purpose.
Both are respected and or feared for their level of skill and successful history in bringing planets to heel. Nolan is the stuff of a respected celebrity among the Viltrumites. Conquest is the monster story Viltrumites tell around campfires. That's not to claim that Nolan is a stranger to violence or carrying out orders with brutal efficiency, as we see in his fight with the original Guardians of the Globe and Mark respectively. Nolan is more than proficient as getting down and dirty, but I think Conquest has the edge in both experience and eagerness. During Invincible's fight with Conquest, we can analyze this fully. Invincible has come a long way since season 1, but even still, Conquest spends most of the fight toying with him, probing him for weakness, provoking him to higher means of violence, all in the name of a good time.
Yes! I want more! Very good!
Conquest is almost completely unhinged. Nolan decimated half a city in his fight with Mark. Conquest devastated multiple cities in his bout with Mark. Conquest takes on Mark, Oliver, and Eve with ease, again, playing with all of them. I can count the amount of well-landed shots that actually hurt Conquest on one hand. His every move is punctuated by a shockwave that devastates anything around him. He teases Mark, takes his time, and messes around. But the second he gets serious about the fight, it's clear that he could have ended it at any time. As the fight escalates, he only seems to enjoy himself more and more. A fight between him and Nolan would be close, probably down to the wire, but Conquest has the edge. He would be willing to go further and sacrifice more. Conquest also has no emotional weaknesses, no one to attack or distract from the fight at hand, where Mark, Oliver, or Debbie around, well then Nolan wouldn't stand a chance. And for that reason, I know he could kill Omni-Man. unlike our next contestant, who has a surprising ability he could use to become far stronger than Omni-Man if needed. It's Alan the Alien. He starts out at a level close to Invincible, if not at least a fair bit stronger. Alan is the representative for the coalition of planets, a conglomeration of alien worlds that are not under the control of the ever-expanding Viltrum Empire. At his earliest stage of power, he would likely have been no match for Omni-Man. However, that changes rather quickly. After Alan's first true battle against 3 Viltrumites, which he loses in a brutally gory fashion, it's clear he is hopelessly and hilariously outmatched. The 3 Viltrumites work in tandem to brutalize him, delivering devastating blows turn by turn, and he can't even defend himself. He is left on the brink of death, yet not only does he survive, he comes back stronger than ever, significantly more powerful, and much larger.
Oh, felt like I was dead. Oh, this is a nice surprise. Oh no. Oh, I broke it. Oh.
I am glad to see you in one piece, Alan of Unova.
Yeah.
As we see in Season 3, Alan helps to bust Omni-Man out of a Viltrumite prison, taking down 2 Viltrumites in the process. Although he is aided by Omni-Man and Battle Beast, he manages to go toe-in-toe with Anissa prior to being captured, surprisingly having to fake being taken down after delivering a powerful blow that rocks her.
No Unopin is that strong.
We have seen Anissa's raw power on display before during her battle with Mark back on Earth, so we know she is formidable. During the escape, Alan handles himself well against the Viltrumites, again pretending to be injured to prompt Nolan into helping. In reality, he remains mostly unharmed. It's evident that the Viltrumites weren't holding back, showcasing just how much a single battle made a difference for him. Now we come to the question, could he currently defeat Omni-Man? The answer is a resounding maybe. He is certainly a lot tougher now and might even be on Nolan's level. The battle could come down to a difference in wit and skill. However, what if Alan were to utilize his regenerative abilities again, essentially gaming the system? In just a couple of controlled battles or scenarios, he could potentially outclass even Omni-Man by a significant margin. If he can already outmatch Viltrumites after just a single survived battle, think about how much untapped potential Alan really has. He just needs to access it to become one of the strongest beings in the universe. And now we arrive at the last person on the list, at least for the time being, someone who has hidden no tricks, no secret powers, no handicaps or boosts, and who would never hold back to an ultimate showdown. It's Battle Beast. This might come as a surprise to viewers of the show, but Battle Beast is arguably one of the most terrifying opponents in the entire universe of Invincible. Let's start at the beginning. We first see him in Season 1 working for Machine Head. The reason for his presence there isn't particularly important. What is significant is the showcase of his raw power. Alongside a few other low-level villains, he confronts Invincible and Titan. The battle quickly goes poorly for our hero, as he is initially outmatched and gets slapped around, with Battle Beast making a joke out of Titan. When he sends Invincible crashing through a roof, we see Omni-Man floating above, witnessing the event. Why did he refuse to intervene? Did he know Battle Beast was there? Especially considering what happens to Mark during the fight, it's shocking that Omni-Man doesn't help. Perhaps he is frightened? Mark loses his cool and quickly takes down the other villains before asking, "Who's next?" The answer is that Battle Beast is next. He firmly puts Mark in his place.
Who's next?
Even though Mark isn't tough enough yet to take on stronger foes, the Reformed Guardians show up to help.
We'll take it from here.
While the lower level villains pull up a bit of a fight, no one is actually able to lay a finger on Battle Beast. He clobbers the entire team effortlessly, taking most of them down in a single blow. The only reason that they survive is that Battle Beast chooses not to kill them then and there. He utterly destroys Invincible, leaving him a mangled mess. Now that we've established him as a significant threat, potentially one that even Omni-Man fears, let's dive deeper, specifically into Season 3. During the prison escape with Alan and Nolan, Battle Beast takes on a Viltrumite officer named Solo, a challenge that even Alan and Nolan struggle with as a team. After the fight, he survives for weeks in deep space, floating away until he is rescued by some aliens. As it stands, I believe Battle Beast would come out on top in a fight against Nolan, but let's go a little bit deeper into the source material to clearly establish why Battle Beast is definitely capable of killing Omni-Man. Final warning, by the way, for huge spoilers regarding later seasons ahead. First, we have to recover a few essentials. Battle Beast comes to blows with the current ruler of the Viltrumites, Thrag. While we won't delve too deep into Thrag, it's critical to understand that the leader of a species governed by strength-based hierarchy is the pinnacle of that species. Battle Beast openly challenges Thrag to glorious combat. During their fight, Thrag is gravely wounded through the intervention of another. Insulted, Battle Beast inflicts a grievous wound on himself to level the playing field. The battle rages on for 3 days as they clash like titans of power. While Thrag ultimately wins and kills Battle Beast, the fight is incredibly close. Thrag was so brutally beaten that he fell, battered from head to toe. Battle Beast stood alone against the ruler of the Viltrumites for 3 whole days and nearly achieved victory. He even showed chivalry by ensuring that he didn't take advantage of Thrag's vulnerabilities, which could have guaranteed him a win. He was probably the only being in the entire universe at that time who could boast that fact. That is everyone that could kill Omni-Man. Adam Eve might just be one of the most powerful characters in the Invincible universe. With her matter manipulation powers, she can heal wounds, create weapons, generate force fields, and even reconstruct her body after death. But no one is... not even Adam Eve. So today, we're breaking down every major character in the Invincible universe who could realistically beat her in a fight. Now, given that Eve can basically self-resurrect, some of her entries might have to be a little more creative. Starting off with Angstrom Levy. Given Eve's incredible power, sometimes the best way to beat her is not to fight her at all. Angstrom has the edge in that he could just sprint her away into another dimension, and that would be that. Given her matter manipulation abilities, it is unlikely that she would die straight away, or even at all.
You murdered my whole family!
But she would be beaten, no longer a threat to mainline Angstrom, and even if she did manage to find a way back, he could just do it again. Remember, he doesn't have to be anywhere near where his portals are for them to work, and he can move them about. He would simply have to locate her, potentially using his drones, and done. Basically, Control-Alt-Delete and she's out of the equation, without triggering any of her abilities. A bit of a hot take now, but hear me out, Cecil Stedman. Not him alone, but given his vast resources and tenacity, I believe he could get the job done. Not afraid to get his hands dirty or throw aside the rulebook, Cecil Stedman has more than one trick up his sleeve, such as the teleporter, sort of the same trick as Angstrom, but he could zap her to space or the bottom of the ocean or into a volcano, but that would likely trigger her regenerative capabilities. Going for a kill shot, he could use another orbital satellite cannon and just disintegrate her instantly. I doubt even Eve's immense powers could stop that from doing the job. He also has access to teams of scientists who work around the clock. He might be able to cook something up to nullify her capabilities. He was quick on the job when he figured out that high-pitched frequencies could subdue even Viltrumites, so it's not out of the equation that he could do the same for Eve. If her brain doesn't perceive that she is under high levels of duress, her abilities won't trigger. The government made her. Surely given enough time, they could unmake her. If he were able to sedate her, he could just lock her up and throw away the key. But moving away from tricks and tactics to a more direct opponent, and one who already nearly finished the job, it's Conquest. Now, we've already witnessed just how the fight between the two would go down, but what if Conquest didn't play with his food? We saw that in a one-on-one, Eve is hopelessly, hilariously outmatched. He beat her to a pulp the moment she faltered, killing her in 2 brutal blows. Her only saving grace was a limiter on her powers broke, and she self-resurrected and blasted his skin off. But even that did not kill him. If Mark wasn't there, could Conquest have finished the job? We saw that Eve collapsed immediately after resurrecting. We know that this process has a downtime. It comes at a heavy cost, leaving Eve vulnerable. Conquest could simply saunter over and crush her brain, seeing as that is the likely source of her powers if he did it quickly. I don't think her limiters would have time to trigger, and she would be dead. And Conquest would have probably loved every minute. Sticking with Viltrumites for now, next up is Omni-Man. Although a very similar scenario to Conquest, there is one defining difference. Omni-Man isn't a stark raving lunatic who monologues about how amazing it feels to rip a child in half. Omni-Man would not be playing around from the get-go. We see right for the throat. Omni-Man wouldn't waste time reveling in the fight or trying to enjoy himself. We saw that when he ambushed the Guardians of the Globe, he went straight for the biggest threat. He's a tactician with tons of fighting experience. Even when the initial ambush failed, he was able to improvise, adapt, and overcome. Given that we have seen Omni-Man take on an entire team of superheroes with varying powers and abilities all at once, we doubt that Eve would be much of a threat with her limiters in check. Omni-Man throws nothing but kill shots. In the likely event that he tries to impale or decapitate her, she would just regenerate and likely hurt him. But if he is able to figure this out beforehand or survive the retaliation, then I know he would get creative. In Season 2, we see Omni-Man float near the event horizon of a black hole. Why he could grab Eve, zoom off to one, and drop her in. Or fling her into the sun, he could just fly far enough from the planet, leave her there, and that would be that. Speaking of the original Guardians of the Globe, Red Rush, the speedster of the original crew, would likely be a bigger threat to Eve than most people would realize. His super speed isn't just limited to moving fast. He has super speed perception, allowing him to react to events so fast that most people would even be able to see it happen. It would be almost impossible for Eve to hit him with any pink energy or other attacks, and he could just move in and out of the fight on a whim. If he decides he is tired of fighting, he could just zoom off to France for a croissant and a coffee and be back before Eve has time to blink. That speed would be crucial in beating her too. A far less brutal hero than other entries on our list, Red Rush would likely not want to smash her into tiny little pieces, but if he did, it would be over in less than a second. With a piece of wire, or anything sharp really, Eve could be reduced to a fine paste before her limiters broke. But because he is a hero, he would likely try to incapacitate her, something that likely wouldn't work too well, as anything she's put into or tied up with, she could just change the matter into water or steam. But she still wouldn't really be able to hit Red Rush, so in this case, he wins. Moving on to someone we have seen actually get the job done, it's Mark, aka Invincible, the current boyfriend of Adam Eve, but if things ever did take a turn for the worse, I know he could beat her, because we have already seen this happen in the opening of season 2. An alternate version of Mark finds her among the resistance of their planet. The fight doesn't even last a few seconds. He toys with her and shrugs off her attacks laughably. Then, he snaps her neck in such a way that doesn't kill her, but leaves her paralyzed. As we see, this doesn't trigger her limiters, and is effective. We see Eve lying there, fully incapacitated, unable to move or do anything.
Last chance, Eve.
She might be able to put up a bit of a better fight in the mainline universe, but so does Mark. As they both grow in strength and experience, he still outpaces Eve by quite a bit. Their relationship also gives him a bit of an edge. He could appeal to her, try to claim her, or manipulate her into getting close and deliver the killing blow, while she is unsuspecting and her guard is fully down. Something that almost every other person on this list would not be able to do. And that's not even to mention just how ludicrously strong Mark becomes towards the end of the comic. It's not just his own power that he wields, but the might of the entire Viltrum Empire by then. If it came to blows when he is older, Eve would not be able to put up much of a fight. Speaking of the Viltrum Empire, our next contender is Thrag, the current Grand Regent of the Viltrum Empire. While not currently in the show, he plays a big part in the story to come. He's an absolute monster, outclassing characters like Conquest by a wide margin. Hands down, the strongest Viltrumite currently alive. Trained from birth to be the ultimate warrior. Standing head and shoulders above Mark in size, speed, strength, and battle experience, he is also one of the older living Viltrumites. Having been alive during the Viltrumite Civil War, he would be almost 1,000 years old. His battle experience alone is absolutely titanic. Having fought in countless wars, conquered thousands of planets, and fought against aliens of every shape and size across the entire galaxy, Eve would be little more than another ant on this endless expansion, but he'd have to be quick, which he is. He is like Nolan in Conquest turned up to 11, cold calculating and brutal. He also commands the Viltrum Empire as it stands, so he likely wouldn't even have to fight Eve face to face. Just send a scouting party after her and be done with it. But if she proves too much for them and his hand is forced, then he would definitely show. If Nolan could throw her into a black hole or a sun, just imagine what Thrag could do. He would likely just blitz Eve into little pieces before she could react, or her limiters could break and she would never even know what hit her. Sticking with the feats of incredible strength and brutality, and one of the two beings that actually went toe to toe with Thrag and nearly won. It's Battle Beast, a giant lion humanoid warrior from a far off planet. He, like Conquest, Nolan, and Thrag, would have to utilize his strength and battle experience to win, being much closer to Conquest in that he seeks the ultimate battle. He would likely want to trigger her limiters, if he knew about them. In season 1, we see Battle Beast beat Mark into a hospital effortlessly, while almost entirely ignoring the new Guardians of the Globe, aside from Monster Girl and Black Samson, who he demolishes with ease too. If Eve were there, she would likely have died or been beaten down too. We see that Battle Beast has no trouble, even with Viltrumites in season 2. In fact, Battle Beast's top feat is in his fight with Thrag, a colossal battle that lasted 3 entire days and ripped up an entire planet. While Battle Beast did lose, it's because he handicapped himself to match Thrag's mortal wound, and he still almost won. Thrag needed urgent medical care after the fight. It's a testament to his strength, endurance, and battle experience. Battle Beast would likely kill her quickly, either with his massive mace or his jaws and claws. If she were to regenerate and retaliate, he'd likely survive, figuring out how to kill her for good in the process. A character that has an interesting set of powers, not entirely like Eve's, would be Alan the Alien. In Season 1, we see Alan get torn to shreds by a Viltrumite scouting party, except he survives. Not only does he survive, he recovers and is far stronger than he was before, and bigger as well. Prior to that encounter, he's no match for even a single Viltrumite. After just one survived encounter, he's able to take on multiple Viltrumites at once. Alan's ability kicks in a few more times in the comics, so we know it's not just one and done. Every time he gets exponentially stronger, reaching new heights again and again, much like Adam Eve's regenerative abilities, except he comes back way stronger. Their fight would likely be long and drawn out, with days or even weeks between bouts. Each time one of them killed the other, they would simply regenerate, except Alan would keep getting stronger until eventually Eve just wouldn't be able to stand against him, even with her regenerative capabilities of her limiters fully broken. There would come to a point where Alan would be so strong that he could just ignore the attacks and crush her again and again until the job is done. Coming now to our final entry, and finally moving away from raw strength, it's Robot, or Rudy, or Rex, a super genius born into a deformed body. Robot, even in Season 1, is a formidable opponent, preferring to outthink rather than outpunch. He's able to analyze the Flaxans as they are invading and come up with ways to beat them on the fly. He later clones himself into a copy of Rex and is able to live out his life in a functional normal body. He even stopped Monster Girl's reverse aging all through his smarts alone. Rudy might be the only character in the Invincible universe who could beat Eve without throwing a single punch. We see in Season 2 that he's able to reverse engineer portal technology to save Mark from the empty universe. So he could just portal Eve away like Angstrom. He might be able to develop tech that would completely nullify her powers, given time and resources. And all of that is just Robot from the show in the earlier seasons. Robot from the comics is a step even further. He upgrades his drones to be able to stand against Viltrumites, giving them a harder alloy and bigger models to better fly them. He also seizes control of the entire planet and stages a coup, killing any superhero he deems a threat to his new regime. And it is beyond effective. He forces Mark off of Earth because he doesn't wish to fight him. Robot in the late game comics takes Cecil's teachings to a whole new level, getting his hands dirty to beat the bad guys permanently. Robot never fought fair, but after that he didn't need to fight at all. Eve simply wouldn't be able to compete, and if she regenerated and blissed Robot, it would likely just be a bunch of drones she killed. Robot would know better than to be anywhere near her. He wouldn't have to kill her to win either. As we see in the comics, he essentially shoos her and Mark off the planet with pretty much no trouble at all, blasting them without needing to fight at all. Mark Grayson, the main character of Invincible. We see him rise from an amateur to a strong-willed and powerful superhero in the show. At first barely able to handle any serious threats, to being able to toe-to-toe with one of the most powerful Viltrumites in the latest season. But in the comics, Mark rises to even greater heights. He becomes the Emperor of the Viltrumites and possibly one of the most powerful characters in the entire universe. So, it begs the question, just who could kill Emperor Invincible? Starting out with the definite, it's his wife, Adam Eve, another of the very small handful of most powerful beings in the Invincible universe. Her mastery over matter gives her the edge in any battle, especially when she uses it to her full advantage. She's able to completely reshape the atomic structure of any matter as long as it's not sentient. In the Adam Eve special, we see her turn a paper book into solid glass. She turns the wool hoods of two would-be robbers into solid metal. Of course, we also see her begin to develop her signature pink energy, which she uses to augment her fighting skills and martial prowess greatly. With these two skills, she shoots straight to the top of the strongest heroes on Earth, especially as we see her develop her powers over the seasons. She goes from fighting alongside the Reformed Guardians to being able to take on Conquest by herself, even if it's a short-lived fight. But her development doesn't stop there. She fights alongside Mark and the Coalition of Planets in many of their battles, even fighting at the very end in the Viltrumite War. All that to say, Adam Eve is incredible, and we haven't even scratched the surface of what she is capable of. Eve's powers are awesome. Being able to reshape matter entirely is a god-tier power when used effectively. So powerful, in fact, that Eve has limiters placed on them so that she isn't too overpowered. But those limiters can break. Under certain circumstances, when her body is damaged heavily or a high level of stress occurs, her limiters break and she can access the full extent of her powers. In her unbridled form, she glows purple and pink, and her eyes shine with that brilliant energy. She can use her powers on anything, sentient or not. She was powerful before, but now she can completely reshape anything or anyone. If she were faced with a powerful enemy and her limiters broke, she could potentially just take away their powers, or turn them into dust. She says this much in the Adam Eve special, that she could completely remake the people who experimented on her and killed her real family. The second time we see her use the power, she comes back from the brink of death, fully healed, and hits Conquest with an energy blast so strong it disintegrates his skin. In the comics after Mark becomes Emperor, we see her even regenerate from death by old age. That's right, Adam Eve is so powerful that she is effectively immortal. I think she's one of a very small number of people who could actually pose a threat to Emperor Mark. Given her incredible powers and the fact that she is his wife and the mother of their child, he wouldn't want to hurt her, let alone kill her. The battle would be almost one-sided. If Eve broke her limiters, she could simply erase him from existence, or depower him completely. The second entry on her list is similar to Eve in that their powers are greater than what they at first seem. It's Alan the Alien. Alan, when we first see him, is no great threat. In fact, he's not much stronger than Mark in Season 1, and Mark is definitely not that strong. His powers include flight, super strength, and some mild telepathy. Oh, and the ability to get much stronger every time he is brought close to the brink of death. We first see this ability in full action when the Viltrumite scouting party finds him and beats him so bad that he was almost certainly dead. But he is rescued and put into intense medical care. This is where we see it for the very first time. Once he is fully healed, it is very clear that he is much larger than he was before, and way stronger. So strong now that whereas before he was unable to pose a threat to even a single Viltrumite, now he is able to take on multiple at once. When he breaks Nolan out of the Viltrumite prison ship, he and Nolan fight 2 Viltrumites at once. More than once, Alan needs to fend off both of them at once. While he might have had help, this is a stark contrast to his previous encounter with Viltrumites, where he literally couldn't even defend himself. It might seem like this ability is a one and done kind of strength boost, but it happens again in the comics where the Coalition of Planets headquarters is attacked. Alan barely survives the explosion and is once again rescued by intense medical care. Coming back from the brink of death and once again much stronger than he was before, he now sports scale-like skin that acts as a super armor. And before, we had to try to beat a single Viltrumite, now only the strongest Viltrumites posed any real threat to him. This is late in the comics and the last time we see this power in full effect, but we come back to him hundreds of years later and it seems to have happened at least a few more times, or he just got much stronger as he aged. We don't really know, but what we do know is that as leader of the Coalition of Planets, he is probably the only character in the Invincible universe who could wage war against Mark, because in order to truly beat Emperor Mark, his empire would need to be beaten as well. Alan himself might be a match for Mark, but Mark has the weight of his entire empire behind him. Alan is the only other being with an army of that magnitude and the power to match Mark's. Now, as we come to the end of the very short list of characters in the Invincible universe who pose a threat to Emperor Mark, we turn our attention elsewhere, starting with the Marvel universe. That's right, we are going to other universes. For the sake of keeping it entertaining, we are going to exclude characters like the One Above All and Eternity, because that wouldn't be much fair of a fight. Starting out with the fan favorite, Hulk. Dr. Bruce Banner is a mild-mannered scientist with a lot of trauma at the hands of an abusive father, but when he is hit unshielded by gamma radiation, he transforms into the terrifying Hulk. It's probably one of the most well-known superhero origins of all time, one that predates the Invincible comics by about a whopping 40 years. The Hulk as he first appears probably wouldn't be a threat to even Season 1 Mark. He's strong, sure, but he's only really super strong by the standards of the time. Current day Hulk, however, is a different matter entirely. Depending on the comic run, Hulk's strength varies wildly, so we are gonna go ahead and pick one that would be the greatest threat to Emperor Mark, that being World Breaker Hulk. After being tricked by the Illuminati into being exiled into space, Hulk lands on the planet Sakaar, a brutal war-torn planet where every day is a fight for survival. Hulk's incredible strength is pushed to even greater heights here, as well as his intellect. Unlike his regular savage form, Worldbreaker Hulk retains a lot of Bruce Banner's intelligence. That makes Hulk able to strategize and plan rather than just punch his way through every problem. He conquers Sakaar and becomes its de facto leader. Now, seemingly content with his exile, the worst happens. The spaceship used to exile Hulk explodes, killing his wife and seemingly unborn son. This is the true turning point of Hulk, where he gets the moniker Worldbreaker. He travels back to Earth with his army, the Warbound. But first he stops at the moon, where he faces off against Black Bolt, a character of such ridiculous levels of strength that his voice alone could crack a planet if he used it to his full power. He whispers the word, enough, and it sends a shockwave forth so powerful that any other character would have been instantly beaten. Hulk, being the ultimate badass, tells him, I didn't come here for a whisper, I want to hear you scream. He is later seen holding Black Bolt by his collar, clearly defeated. He then takes his revenge on the X-Men, the Avengers, and the Gamma Squad. All entire teams of incredibly powerful superheroes. Worldbreaker Hulk is so unbelievably powerful that he sends shockwaves across an entire continent in just a single step. That, combined with his increased intelligence, should prove to be more than a match for Emperor Mark. The battle might destroy more than a few planets, but Hulk is the strongest there is. Staying in the Marvel Universe, but moving away from brute strength and onto a more intellect battle, it's Reed Richards. While the original Fantastic Four were little more than campy heroes who took on the villain of the week, but later iterations of them go so insanely beyond that it's almost strange to look at their humble beginnings. Most of all, the default leader of the Fantastic Four, Reed Richards. While he does possess the power to stretch his body into any shape of form, and is a very capable fighter and strategist, his real power comes from being the smartest man alive. A very short list of some of his incredible inventions are an insanely powerful clone of Thor called Ragnarok, a machine that was capable of taking you to the afterlife, a gun that could level all of New York in a single shot called the Demo Gun, and finally, the Solve Everything Plan. Reed Richards of Earth 8155 has literally solved every problem that reality has. No hunger, no diseases, no wars, and literally every other problem that world faces. While not a particularly powerful creation, it just shows the kind of inventions Mr. Fantastic can come up with if he puts his mind to it. Coming now to one of the most incredible inventions, the bridge. A gateway of sorts that allows for multiversal travel. He uses it to assemble the Council of Richards. Because what's better than one smartest man in the world? An entire council of them, the greatest think tank in comic book history. The Richards would likely have come up with and constructed a way to beat Mark before he even gets anywhere near him. Be that through a weakness or a virus, Richards would have thought of it all. But I think we can have one more character from the Marvel Universe. We've had Brains, we've had Brawn, now it's time for something a little weirder. We are, of course, talking about Scarlet Witch. Wanda Maximoff is a powerful sorcerer in the Marvel Universe. While she mainly inhabits the X-Men side of the comics, she occasionally branches out and becomes a threat to the entire world, with her base level abilities being frightening enough. Powers like mind control, image and hallucination projections, as well as able to comprehend. Later in the comics, her powers escalate way higher than what should have been possible. Perhaps in one of the most famous comic arcs of all time, House of M, she says the words, "No more mutants," and 98% of the mutant population instantly lose their powers. That's right. And with her normal powers, she's an incredible threat. But with reality warping powers on that level, she would never even have to meet Mark. Just say the magic words, "No more Viltrumites," and that would be that. Mark's entire empire would be nothing more than humans with advanced technology. That is a bit of a cop-out, as even without that level of power, Wanda Maximoff could wipe the floor with Emperor Mark. In a face-to-face showdown, she could turn his entire army against him, make him hallucinate nightmares beyond his wildest imagination, have him begging for death all before even trading a single blow. Probably one of the scariest witches in comic book history, but now let's close the book on Marvel and move on to DC. Starting out with, of course, Batman with prep time. Only joking it is, of course. None other than Superman, probably one of the more interesting matchups on the list. The big blue Boy Scout shares a lot of powers with the Viltrumites, except he's better at every single one of them. If Mark can fly across galaxies in weeks, Superman can do it in seconds. If Mark can bench press the world, Superman could lift the galaxy with one hand. We could go on and on about how Superman is better, but how about a little bit of proof? Superman's powers come from the sun. In one of his more famous runs, Superman flies directly into the sun to absorb as much of the solar radiation as he can, and he comes out stronger. To compare this to Mark directly, when he fought with Thrag on the surface of the sun, his skin melted and he required urgent medical care to survive. That's a pretty shocking power disparity all on its own. And Superman has so many more it could be a video all on its own, but we'll just cover a couple to get the message across. He held a book with infinite mass inside the metaphysical realm. Infinite. Caught a mini black hole like a baseball and compressed it into nothing to prevent it from destroying Earth. And finally, dragging an entire galaxy on a chain, one of the most ridiculous yet symbolic feats in comic book history. While Superman might hold back a little bit at first, he would still beat Mark. Even with the entire Viltrumite empire behind him, he wouldn't stand a chance. It wouldn't be a fair fight. Not even close. That's DC's raw strength covered. So in sticking with the theme, how about their intelligence too? A being so smart, it's literally in the name Brainiac. Brainiac, a character with experience in even dealing with Kryptonians. Brainiac makes a habit of collecting entire civilizations in miniature form. His intelligence and technology outclasses anything the Viltrumite Empire could throw at him. He could analyze Mark's DNA, something he did with the Kryptonians, and isolate weaknesses in the Viltrumite genome, including their susceptibility to viruses. By deploying the weakness through drones or nanotechnology, he'd never even have to get close to Mark. But in the event that it came to a battle, Brainiac has some strength to match his wit. He often employs the use of gravity weapons, controlling artificial black holes and dimensional disruptors. He could drop a micro-singularity on Mark or lock him in a time dilation bubble where every second is a century. But most likely, he would just shrink the entire Viltrumite Empire and keep them on his shelf to collect dust, like a sad, forgotten children's toy. You know what's next. We've done strength and smarts. It is once again time to get weird. It's Dr. Fate, a bit of a less popular character, so here's the rundown. Kent Nelson was a son of the archaeologist Sven Nelson. As a child, he accompanied his father on an expedition to the valley of Ur in Mesopotamia. There, they discovered a mystical tomb containing the spirit of Nabu, an ancient and powerful lord of order. Kent accidentally awakened Nabu's spirit, and the process killed Kent's dad, leaving Kent as the inheritor of Nabu's will and power. Armed with the helmet that housed Nabu's essence, he became Dr. Fate, an incredibly powerful sorcerer. One with reality warping abilities, he can teleport, manipulate, time, and control matter itself. Emperor Mark's abilities are all physical. Dr. Fate's powers are conceptual. While Mark can fly and punch his way through a lot of problems, Dr. Fate can bypass any of that by controlling reality. He could potentially just freeze time, ending the fight before it even begins. Or, much like Angstrom Levy, just wish Mark away into another dimension. Mark has almost no protection against any form of magical attacks. Fate could disable him in any number of ways, like severing his mind-body link, leaving him completely paralyzed and trapped in his own body, or drain his very soul. A chilling end indeed, but in the event it came down to a physical one-on-one, Fate still has the upper hand. He is capable of creating infinite copies of himself, and he also shares a lot of Mark's abilities to a lesser extent, like flight and strength and speed. But where it would come down to it is Dr. Fate's ability to see into the future. He could see Mark's first move before it even happened, or even as they are fighting, see each and every attack before it even came. And Fate could just adjust his plan and attacks accordingly, creating counter spells or runes that would neutralize Mark at any given moment in the entire fight. Every second of the fight that does happen only happens because Dr. Fate allows it to. That covers two of the most popular comic book universes and how they would take care of Mark. So how about we make things just a little bit more interesting by moving away from comic books entirely into just one singular character from anime? You all know exactly who I'm talking about. It's, of course, Goku. Actually sharing a lot of similarities with Mark, an alien being raised on planet Earth, hailing from a warrior species who conquered planets, but that is all about they share. Goku was raised by an older man who we refer to as Grandpa. At first, the little monkey boy was trained in simple martial arts, learning from his grandfather and the great master Roshi. His fighting prowess was incredible even as a child. He grows to be so much more. Our reintroduction to Goku at the beginning of the Dragon Ball Z series, he is already seen as the strongest character in the show, taking on two villains from his own race. He's not even overpowered here by any means, able to fire incredible energy beams, the now world famous Kamehameha, and summon the Spirit Bomb. He beats them, but only just. He at this stage would be no match for even Season 3 Mark, let alone Emperor Mark. But Goku's strength continues to grow throughout the entire series. Instead of covering his entire journey though, which could be a whole series of videos and of itself, let's stick to the most important power jumps in his story. The first major jump being Super Saiyan, the legendary power he unlocks in a fit of rage against his fight with the mighty Frieza, a planet-conquering megalomaniac with incredible transformative powers of his own. It's one of the most legendary battles in all of fiction. This power-up increases Goku's strength, speed, and energy as before in the fight he struggled against Frieza, but after transforming, he wins the fight pretty quickly. We could cover the next two power-ups, but they aren't really huge jumps in power. So let's jump right to Goku's ascension to godhood. Goku, through means of a special ritual, allow him to ascend to a level of strength that matches a god of destruction. Even if it's only for a short time at first, Goku takes that power and increases it even further, managing to give that its own form of Super Saiyan. At this point, he would be more than a match for Emperor Mark in terms of raw strength, battle tactics, and speed. His instant transformation transmission allows him to essentially teleport, and the beams and blasts of energy he can now fire shake the very universe. But that's still not the end of Goku's incredible rise to power. He has one more current power up, that being the power of Autonomous Ultra Instinct, a form so powerful that he doesn't even have to think to fight. He just reacts. So fast and powerful that he surpasses the power level of even the gods of his own universe. Emperor Mark might be powerful, but Goku is so far beyond him now in terms of strength and experience that the fight would barely even interest Goku, whose love for fighting is well known.
Thrag might be the strongest character in all of Invincible. He's the leader of the Viltrumite Empire, and he's pretty much built for battle. But even he isn't unstoppable. Across the comics and the show, there are a few characters who could kill him. Today, we're looking at every single one, starting with the most surprising, Alan the Alien. An obvious choice for a hidden reason. Alan the Alien might not be much to look at first, but he's got a secret ability which gives him a massive advantage. The power to get exponentially stronger with each near-death experience he survives. Before his first fight against the Viltrumites, Alan was actually pretty low on the level of power. After he survives the encounter, he is easily twice his previous size and far stronger to boot. He goes from being unable to even stand against a Viltrumite to being able to take on several at once, with help that is, after a single survived encounter. With this ability, what is to stop Alan from spamming it in a controlled environment? He could survive fight after fight and gain ridiculous amounts of strength quite quickly and easily. We do not know if there is an upper limit to this ability, but due to events late in the comics, we can make an educated guess that if there is, it is far beyond what Alan is capable of now. After surviving an explosion on Telescria, Alan's regenerative factor kicks in yet again, and we see him get even more powerful, now standing on par with even the most elite Viltrumite warriors. His power alone is not his only weapon. Alan eventually comes into power as the leader of the coalition of planets. He turns out to be a pretty good leader, but he doesn't shy away from some seriously evil war tactics. Much like Cecil, Alan is prepared to get his hands dirty if it means bringing an end to the Viltrumite Empire. With the backing of multiple alien races, his incredible power, and some ability spamming, Alan would easily be able to kill Thrag, much like the next person on our list, who could win most fights if they used their powers well. Adam Eve. Much like Alan, Eve makes the list due to a specific ability. Rather, a specific set of abilities. Eve is shown to have the ability to manipulate matter itself. On paper, this alone is an absolutely ridiculous power to have. While limited to non-living beings outside of certain situations, she possesses the ability to completely reshape any kind of matter into any other kind of matter, essentially cost-free. Although it does seem to wear her down, this would mean that with a little bit of ingenuity and some ruthlessness, she could do anything. We get a tiny glimpse of this in her fight with Conquest, shifting the air molecules around him to be so dense that Conquest cannot move.
What?
I increased the density of the air.
Short-lived as it is, this impressive display is just a tiny example of how overpowered Eve could be. She has also grown exponentially since season 1, struggling against laughable villains such as Doc Seismic at first, to be able to go head-to-head with Conquest himself for a short time in just the span of a year or two. If Eve utilized this power to its full extent, and maybe had a little prep time, she could almost definitely go up against Thrag. A few examples could be hurling some sand at him and turning the sand into deadly uranium or plutonium, splitting an atom right in Thrag's face, nuclear detonation style, just to name a few small examples before we get to the real power hidden up her sleeve. When put under immense physical or mental duress, the limiter on Eve's ability breaks, meaning in short, the rule about her only being able to manipulate non-living matter goes out the window entirely. This would mean that Thrag wouldn't stand a chance. In the Adam Eve special, she mentions that she could make the villains who killed her family into entirely new people, completely reshape them if she wanted. She settles for rewriting their brain to forget her entirely. But this display shows us that if her limiters broke during a fight with Thrag, she could just wish him away.
I am Samantha Eve Welkins, and I defy you to even remember who I am!
Poof and gone, turned into dust, or a solid gold statue, even a tree. Hell, if she wanted, she could leave his personality as is and rewrite him into being a skinny emo kid with no powers at all. The ultimate insult for the ultimate Viltrumite. Unlike the previous two entries, the next contestant needs no special awakenings, no tricks or prep time, just raw, undiluted strength and the love of the fight. Battle Beast. The humanoid lion Goliath himself. Battle Beast needs no power-ups, no secret plan, no hidden weapon. Because even if he had them, he would probably refuse to use them. One of the only people on this list who poses a direct threat to Thrag without any shenanigans. In the comic, we actually see Battle Beast and Thrag go head to head. Thrag is mortally wounded by a sneak attack from Battle Beast's partner. Instead of taking the advantage and ending Thrag then and there, Battle Beast equally wounds himself in almost the same manner to level the playing field and make it a fully fair fight. Had he taken that opportunity, it would have been the end of Thrag without a doubt. Instead, they duke it out across the planet for 3 full days, the fight ending with Thrag so gravely injured he needs life-saving medical intervention. Battle Beast was such a furious foe that the battle honestly could have gone either way. Thrag was actually so impressed by his monstrous prowess that he wore Battle Beast's fur for some time, showing respect in a weirdly dour way. Speaking of Battle Beast's advantage, I of course have to bring up what exactly gave him the edge in that fight. The Ragnar. While not a singular character or combatant, the Ragnar absolutely qualifies for this list. A savage, non-sapient species of red alien beasts. Due to the intense gravity and hostile nature of their planet, they evolved to be incredibly strong. So strong, in fact, that when Nolan first discovers them, they almost immediately kill him. They do kill his partner instantly, ripping her head clean off in a single bite. Nolan attempts to escape, but the Ragnars leap up and pull him back towards the surface. Nolan was scared that they would be his end. Fortunately, he manages to escape, although it's unclear how. Side note, want to know how Conquest lost his arm and eye permanently? You guessed it, Ragnars. The Viltrumites, i.e. Thrag, recognized the threat that the Ragnars posed to their race, and placed a large solar disk in front of their sun, freezing the planet and them in the process. Later on in the comic, Nolan and Alan return to the Ragnar planet in order to capture some to use as weapons. This goes appallingly as they accidentally destroy the sun disk completely, leading to the Ragnar thawing out of the ice very quickly and again almost immediately overwhelming the two. They are unable to capture even one and barely escape with their lives. Now, getting back to the fight between Thrag and Battle Beast, the secret weapon unleashed upon Thrag in their fight is none other than the Ragnar. They overwhelm and wound Thrag very quickly, and without the help of Battle Beast and the Thraxans, things might not have ended up well for Thrag. Maybe the only beings in the universe that Thrag actually fears. Next up might be a bit of a controversial take for some. Darkwing II. That's right, Darkwing. Essentially just a normal human in a costume. I know what you're thinking, there's no way he could take down Thrag, right? Well, I think that Thrag's weakness here lies in his hubris, and Darkwing has a deadly secret. Thrag would see Darkwing as such a non-threat that he would likely ignore him at first. Whether it be another foe or a team against Thrag, Darkwing could use his perceived weakness to his advantage. All Darkwing has to do is touch him. If he can touch Thrag, the fight is over. Because Darkwing can open a portal to the Shadowverse, a pocket dimension filled with creatures of nightmares and nothingness. With no way back, Thrag would be defeated. It might take some time for him to actually die, but yes, Darkwing II could indeed kill Thrag. Alright, let us put the pitchforks away as we get back to some more serious threats. In sticking with the portal theme, it's Angstrom Levy. Much the same as our previous entry, in terms of physical power, he is completely outmatched, laughably so. His power rests in his access to other dimensions. Except, he doesn't have to touch Thrag. In fact, he doesn't even have to be in the same dimension as Thrag, he just needs to know where he is and zap. Think Thrag can just dodge the portals, multiple mortals from multiple angles? Thrag can just stop, right? We've seen Angstrom move the portals around before. Thrag's gotta sleep, gotta eat, gotta use the men's room. All moments of vulnerability that Angstrom could snatch up and go for the kill. But wait, it doesn't end there. Angstrom isn't some one-trick pony. While exiling Thrag in another desolate universe is a rather quick and easy fix, it is not the only trick Angstrom could pull. Infinite universes, infinite possibilities. Army of Thrag variants who are good? How about a universe where most other species are as strong as Viltrumites? Hell, how about a dimension where the particles sap Viltrumite strength? Just to name a couple, I'm sure more inventive viewers could come up with even more wacky ways to off Thrag via multi-dimensional shenanigans. Alright, enough with the hot takes. Things kick into a higher gear as we come to the next on our list, someone who thankfully doesn't need portals. Robot, aka Rex. No, not Robot in the show currently. I doubt he'd do more against Thrag than ending up as some nice crimson wall decor. See, while Rex might look the same, he's actually been in another dimension for the last 700 years. That's right, he and Amanda, Monster Girl, were trapped in the Flaxen dimension for over 700 years. Due to some timey-wimey stuff, they only aged about 12 Earth years. In that time, Rex, aka Rudy, became the ruler of that dimension. We see this when Mark takes the fight to him directly. Robot states that Mark hasn't even beaten one of his drones, and that he could have half an army there in moments. Mark, hopelessly outgunned, is forced to leave Earth, and Rudy takes over as the leader of Earth. Rex even helps out in the penultimate battle, where one of his drones is able to withstand the temperature of the sun. Given his tactical brilliance, cunning, and ruthlessness, developing portal tech doesn't seem like too much of a stretch, does it? Or perhaps utilizing the Ragnar or another deadly threat to Viltrumites, such as the Scourge virus. Less of a character or a person that could defeat Thrag, but a weapon. One that, in the hands of just about anyone, would definitely kill Thrag. So the title on the list goes to the weapon itself rather than any particular user. Originally created by Thetis and the Coalition of Planets as the ultimate bioweapon against the Viltrumites, it ravaged the Viltrumite population, stating to have killed 99.99% of the entire Viltrumite race. Only those with some sort of immunity survived, even if it depowered them for some time. It is the sole reason that there are only 50 pure-blooded Viltrumites remaining in the entire universe. Just about anyone with this weapon in its later upgraded form could wipe out the remaining Viltrumites. A seriously deadly weapon that even poses a threat to humans as well, given their genetic similarity to Viltrumites. Lastly, we move away from weapons and tactics one final time to give man himself his due. The one person in the Invincible universe who could take Thrag head on and without any question win. It's Invincible. I don't think there was ever any question as to whether he would appear on the list. In the show, Mark isn't currently that strong. In fact, Thrag would likely gently smoosh him into the dirt with his thumb, but in the comics, that is very much not the case. By the time the penultimate battle takes place between Mark and Thrag, Mark has grown so much in terms of strength that he finally lives up to his hero name. He's taken part in multiple apocalyptic-sized battles, killed Conquest twice, loved and lost, even gone through some serious growth emotionally. Mark, at his point in the comics, is every bit Thrag's equal and rival. The two trade blows on the sun, their skin horrifically melting off of them as they do so. Mark beats Thrag with a little assistance, but he beats him, finally putting an end to Thrag and his tyranny. But it doesn't end there. Mark goes on to become Emperor of the Viltrumites and lives for a very long time. His strength is increasing by just absolutely ludicrous amounts as he does so. By the very end of the comics, Mark has lived for over 500 years and is so laughably strong that if he were to somehow go back in time to fight Thrag again, it would look much more like Invincible's first fight against Omni-Man, with Mark being Omni-Man and Thrag being Mark. It wouldn't even be a competition at that point, more of a mercy killing. People tend to forget that Mark beat a 1,000-year-old incredibly powerful demigod at the ripe old age of about 30. In Viltrumite years, Mark is still less than an adolescent at that point, barely having lived even a blip of his entire lifespan. It wasn't just Thrag that Mark beat either, it was hundreds, if not thousands, of the Thraxan Viltrumite brood. So it is without question that Invincible could kill Grand Regent Thrag. Battle Beast has destroyed almost everyone he's ever fought, but even he isn't invincible. There are characters out there who could actually kill Battle Beast, and today we're ranking them all, from the ones who would push him to his absolute limit to the ones who would tear him apart in seconds. And trust me, the last one is going to leave you stunned. But we're still starting off with one that might surprise you. Adam Eve. She makes the list due to a set of powerful skills that only she has. While in a battle of strength, she might be hilariously outmatched, but Adam Eve has smarts on her side, and the ability to manipulate matter itself. No biggie. This already puts her leagues above most other characters in the Invincible universe when she has the sense to use it to its full potential, that is. It must be said that it is limited to non-living beings outside of certain situations, which we will touch on later. Essentially, it's the ability to completely reshape any kind of matter into any other kind of matter without much cost other than it draining energy. It sort of makes her a lower tier god, able to do pretty much whatever she likes to matter around her if she chooses so. The best examples of this are in the Adam Eve special, where she turns a regular old book into solid glass, then reverts it completely, showing control and skill at such a young age. And in her fight with Conquest in season 3, she increases the density of the air molecules around him to completely immobilize him, albeit for a short period of time, showing her smarts and using her ability to its full potential. On top of that absolutely ludicrous ability is her martial prowess. Oh yes, Eve's got hands for days. Her fighting style is as devastating as it is creative, using her famous pink energy to augment her attacks in ways that dazzle her opponents. Going back to the fight with Conquest, she hits him with a combo that disorients him and would have crushed any lower villain to a pulp. All this being said, it is not her greatest weapon. No, under certain situations of extreme stress, her limitations shatter. While she was experimented on in the womb, the scientists put a block on her abilities. She is unable to manipulate the matter of living beings.
I wish you were a puppy. I wish I had a puppy.
These limitations get completely removed when she is under great mental or physical stress, for example, almost dying. We have seen this ability just twice so far in the show. First, when she rewrites the brains of her family's killers and the people responsible for her powers, she does state that it is a kindness, as she could just completely remake them if she wished. Second, in her fight with Conquest, where she fully heals from near death and hits Conquest with a devastating energy blast that sears the skin off of his very body. But how would all of this help her in a fight against Battle Beast? At the lowest level, not much. Her fighting style and pink energy, while creative and relatively strong, would be absolutely no match for a Battle Beast. He could easily shrug off these attacks and blast through any energy shields she put up to defend herself. Where she fares a bit better would be her matter manipulation capabilities. A bit of thought and planning, and Eve would likely get equal footing. Remember, she is able to transmute anything into anything else, like turning his armor into a super dense metal, turning the air molecules around him into hydrogen and igniting it, or something along the lines of making any surrounding particles radioactive. The list goes on and on. Eve might have a good chance at winning here. Finally, if her limiters broke and she got to full on, Battle Beast wouldn't stand a chance. Eve could just make him disappear, disperse him into a fine mist, or turn him into an actual kitten if she pleased. Safe to say that Adam Eve could kill Battle Beast thanks to her incredible power being at its full potential, much like our next contender, Alan the Alien, another hero with a very special ability that might just give him the edge he needs to win. While at first Alan isn't much to look at, he gets tougher, way tougher. A representative of the Coalition of Planets, a sort of space government. He travels the galaxy and tests planets to see if they are ready to handle a serious threat. In his first appearance, he fights against Invincible, who at this point is also pretty weak. He doesn't exactly struggle, but it's clear he's not that much stronger at this point. That is, until his first encounter with the Viltrumite scouting squad. The three Viltrumites brutalize him. He isn't even able to defend himself. It is a pretty hard watch. They take turns and just Mortal Kombat style brutalizing the dude, but shockingly he survives. And that's not all. He is now far stronger than he was before, measurably so in fact. Where before he struggled against even a single Viltrumite, now he can take on several at once. When he comes across a Viltrumite prison ship, none other than Anissa finds him. He's ready for a serious battle, but is surprised to find that she isn't that tough. He even draws draws blood from just a single punch, which leads to him faking being knocked out to infiltrate the ship, where he is subjected to all manner of attempted executions, which all hilariously fail, mind you. He busts out in an attempt to rescue Nolan, and he comes into contact with 2 Viltrumites. Also, our boy Battle Beast is there too.
Oh man, you look terrible. Did you guys do this?
Alan doesn't actually seem to struggle that much, showing off those new muscles and power. All that after just surviving 1 fight, easily doubled in strength, but that's not the upper limit of this secret power. Later in the comics, Alan survives yet another attempt on his life and comes back even stronger than he was before. So we can surmise that if there is a limit to this power, it is certainly beyond a reasonable amount of toughness. So with all that said, how would he fare in his bout with Battle Beast? Well, at first, probably not well. Battle Beast would likely kick his butt all over the place. But if Alan were to implement a little bit of ingenuity, he could tap into his ability in a controlled environment. Basically, he is put to the limits of death in a controlled environment until he becomes absolutely monstrous himself. Not to forget, the dude has a career in flying to alien planets and fighting strong as hell opponents to test them, so he's got battle experience to boot. For these reasons, Alan the alien could kill Battle Beast. Speaking of special attributes that level the playing field, the next person on our list definitely has one of the coolest ones. It's Space Racer, a bit of a smaller character, it must be said, but one who is not lacking in firepower. Originally fighting with Omni-Man over 100 years ago, he is imprisoned on an asteroid belt until Nolan returns to free him by accident. Space Racer has one of, if not the most, overpowered weapons in the Invincible universe. A gun by the name of the Infinity Ray. A gun so powerful that a single shot can wipe out armies or blow holes in planets. It can only be used by him. If anyone else grabbed the gun, it would simply fly back to his hand. Flying around on a 6-space motorbike, just how would he fare in a fight against Battle Beast? Well, if he could hit his mark, the fight would be over instantly. Battle Beast isn't exactly one to dodge a lot either. The gun, again, can pierce anything. It can blast through Viltrumites with ease, so I doubt Battle Beast would be any different. Space Racer doesn't exactly have to be that close either. Just blast the planet Battle Beast is standing on and let the explosion in space do the rest. Or take the fight to Battle Beast directly and hit a few well-aimed shots from a distance and the fight would be won. Now we get down to brass tacks. No more special tricks or abilities, just brute force and fight tactics. Starting with Invincible. Before the pitchforks come out, hear me out. Mark right now, as of season 3, isn't quite that tough just yet. While he has come a long way from barely being able to handle threats such as Doc Seismic to being able to beat a full-blooded Viltrumite with a little help, Mark still couldn't quite take on Battle Beast, I don't think. In season 1, the two actually meet, and it goes about as expected.
Who's next?
Battle Beast whoops him badly. In fact, Mark barely survived the encounter. Even Omni-Man refused to intervene. Perhaps he knew who was in that building. While Mark is a lot stronger than then, the fight probably still wouldn't pan out in his favor. But Mark is far from done getting stronger. Mark becomes so ridiculously strong over time. Through battle after battle, our boy grows to live up to his namesake. Eventually. The best example we see of his power reaching its peak is in the final battle of the series. He takes on hundreds, if not thousands of new Viltrumites. Basically, Thrax and Viltrumite hybrids are produced by Thrag clapping bug cheeks for weeks. Because they mature very fast, he has a whole army of them very quickly. Not only does Mark absolutely outclass them, but they literally smash themselves to pieces just by flying into him. It's gross as hell. But he is now finally a match for Thrag himself. Mark and Thrag fight on the surface of the sun. It's utter madness. Solar flares and coronas explode around them as they fight, their skin melts off, and they still keep going. Mark finally lands the killing blow and survives all of that. He goes on to become emperor of the Viltrumite people and lives on for another 500 years, which in reality is just a fraction of his entire lifespan. So with all that covered, how would Mark shape up to Battle Beast? Well, at first, not well. Battle Beast would cream him easily. By the end of season 3, it wouldn't be so one-sided, but I still think Battle Beast would kill Mark without too much of a fight. By the time Mark becomes emperor, well, it would be a much closer battle, probably coming down to the wire, but Mark would win. I mean, he fought on the surface of the sun and lived, for God's sake. But by the time the series comes to an end, Mark would be able to slap Battle Beast around with one hand tied behind his back, blindfolded and with earmuffs on, and Battle Beast wouldn't be able to do a thing about it. While we may have looked pretty far forward to bring Invincible onto this list, let's bring it back a bit, down to a more level scale for the next one, the Ragnar. Not exactly a single enemy, but rather a whole species. They definitely needed a spot for a couple of reasons. A red, lizard-like race of non-sapient monsters. Due to the intense gravity and hostility of their environment, they grow up to be insanely tough buggers. First discovered by Nolan before his arrival on Earth, when he was in search of potential threats to the Viltrum Empire.
Ragnars.
Upon landing on the planet, they swarm and attack him and his partner, ripping her to shreds immediately and almost killing Nolan just as fast. Given that we have seen just how insanely powerful Nolan is, that means these creatures are scary strong. It is unclear how Nolan escaped, but he did, and the Viltrumites decided to put the creatures on ice, literally. They placed a large disc in front of the planet's sun, which froze the entire planet and all the Ragnar on it. Later in the series, Alan and Nolan return to the planet in their quest to gather weapons for their fight against the Viltrum Empire. However, they accidentally destroy the sun disk completely, and the Ragnar begin to thaw out almost immediately. Nolan and Alan barely escape with their lives and are unable to capture or kill even one of them. Primarily, a single Ragnar wouldn't be too tough of a fight for Battle Beast, but that's not exactly how they hunt. They work as a pack animal, working to swarm and overwhelm prey with their huge claws and fangs. It probably wouldn't take more than a handful of Ragnar to overwhelm Battle Beast and bring him down for good. They also play a key role against the final member of this list. Coming now to the final entry, it's Grand Regent Thrag himself, the greatest living Viltrumite currently, born to one of Emperor Argal's closest advisors and bred to be the strongest Viltrumite, so old that he fought in the Viltrumite Civil War, meaning he is easily over 1,000 years old. Essentially, he is the big bad of Invincible. He alone is incredibly strong, but he is also the leader of the Viltrumites for a time, meaning he has incredible power within and without, commanding the most dangerous beings in the universe. He does, however, lose that position later in the comics due to the actual blood of Argal stepping forward to assume the rightful throne. Thrag is exiled to the planet Thraxa, the bug people that Nolan once lived amongst. He gets down and dirty with the bug ladies because he knows about Oliver, and this is how he will breed the new Viltrumites into existence. Not nearly as strong as their full-blooded counterparts, but still, for all intents and purposes, Viltrumites. The coalition of planets does not abide by the exile and sends someone to finish Thrag off once and for all. It is none other than Battle Beast himself. This is where Ragnar comes back into play. While Thrag and Battle Beast talk, Thrag is trying to convince him to ally with him. Battle Beast's girlfriend releases the Ragnar onto the planet. Enraged, Battle Beast helps Thrag kill them all, but Thrag in the process is disemboweled, his guts hanging out. It's really, really gruesome. Battle Beast is not happy. He does not stand by the unfair advantage he just gained against what he sees is the most worthy opponent he has ever come across. He equally wounds himself in the process. Their fight is nothing short of astronomical. They fight for 3 days straight, punching each other through buildings and into mountains. Battle Beast even has Thrag's whole head in his jaws at one point. It's spectacular, but ultimately it draws to a close. Battle Beast lies dead on the battlefield. His last breath was used to thank Thrag for the ultimate battle, fulfilling his lifelong quest. Thrag, although severely wounded, was the only character in Invincible to have actually beaten Battle Beast in the universe in a one-on-one, putting him at the pinnacle of our list.